Thank you for joining us with the news on QTV. My name is Diana Sumbwe. We take a look at stories making headlines. President Edgar Lungu says late President Levi Patrick Mwanawasa is a true beacon of how a leader ought to be. And former Finance Minister Katela Kalumba is agreed with the observation that Zambia is now headed for debt distress. And now the news in detail. President Edgar Lungu says late President Levi Patrick Mwanawasa is a true beacon of how a leader ought to be. President Lungu says Zambians have the honors to keep the late President Mwanawasa's legacy alive. He states that the late head of state's conviction that building a just society is possible should live on. President Lungu says this is regardless of whether the circumstances may have changed in Zambia since his death. He says Zambians should therefore navigate their nation to the state which they desire and rightfully deserve. President Lungu says Zambia will continue remembering the late Republican president for years to come because of his selflessness and contribution to Zambia. He notes that the ruling Patriotic Front in particular remembers the assistance that he rendered to late President Michael Sata to ensure that he got medical attention at the time he was unwell. President Lungu said this at the Anglican Cathedral of the Holy Cross in Lusaka when he graced a memorial service to mark 10 years since the death of late President Mwanawasa. And widow of the late President Maureen Mwanawasa has encouraged Zambians to use the 10th anniversary of her late husband's death to remember that Zambia remains a broker of peace. Mrs. Mwanawasa states that Zambia has always been a peace broker. She has also urged people in the country to use the 10th anniversary of her husband's death to reignite their resolve to remain a Christian nation. Opposition United Party for National Development leader Hakainde Hichilema was among other prominent political figures that attended the memorial church service. Meanwhile, President Edgar Lungu has praised the Catholic Church for its contribution in complementing government's efforts in promoting peace and unity. In a speech read on his behalf by Religious Affairs Minister Godfrida Sumaili during the Golden Jubilee celebrations of the Roma Catholic Church, President Lungu also commended the Catholic Church for its contribution to helping the needy. President Lungu says it is gratifying to note the strong partnership between the Catholic Church and the state in national development. He states that the Church's contribution in other sectors, especially the social services, does not go unnoticed. He has since reiterated the government's commitment to supporting the Church in Zambia, as can be evidenced through the creation of the Ministry of Religious Affairs, which looks into the welfare of all religious groupings.
My government is happy with the contribution of the Church, and the Catholics in particular, in supplementing government efforts in helping the needy. I am aware of the great works of the home-based care program and the many people that are being touched, especially in the Ngombe compound. I take note that Roma Parish has the biggest home-based care program under the Lusaka Archdiocese. The care being given to the needy is commendable. Distinguished invited guests, my brothers and sisters, government is appreciative of the efforts and involvement of the Catholic Church in promoting peace and unity. We are grateful for the strong partnership between the Church and the state in national development. The Church's contribution in other sectors, and especially the social services, I have noted with admiration the vision to expand and even move the school to bigger campus in Foxdale.
And delivering a sermon during the Golden Jubilee celebrations, Lusaka Diocese Vicar General Father Solomon Tembo urged the Church to unite and work hand in hand in complementing government's efforts towards national development.
Tikayangana boma yatu yasereza bwino munjira zino ndiposo yesa kuti umwe watu mtetani mukale bwino, but sometimes we don't support their efforts. Ninaona apangarodi waeka bwino ka signpost, there's a hump ahead. Muntu ndo kapungia ndala ka hump ka posta kameka amita kubali na road ya kwetachani ya monongeka parasi. You complain the government is not working. No, the government is working. Who is not working is you and your irresponsibility. Ina mbira ma programs pa radio. No, ilinitumira kuno. Ifye pa nyumba patu palitishara tufuna boma ya panepo. Iwe watu boma ya panepo tishara tani mutaya boma ya panepo. Abalo kondeka. Ati pasipula lero ifuna kuti imwe na ine titengeko mentality ya Chinese. A Chinese works very hard. You like it or not, they work 24/7. But if you don't have Chinese, I'm less than going to kucheti basande. Georgie, are you going to which church? No, church, I'm going to church. No, church. Let us get that mentality of the Chinese to do what? To work very hard. And our parish won't be the what? Won't be the same.
Former Finance Minister Katele Kalumba has agreed with the observation that Zambia is now headed for debt distress. Dr. Kalumba says it is true that there is need for concern on the issue of debt in Zambia. In an interview with Q News by telephone, Dr. Kalumba says he also knows that government has realized this fact that there is a problem of debt distress. Dr. Kalumba, who was finance minister under the Frederick Chiluba MMD government, says this explains why government has also announced economic austerity measures. He says the current debt stock is too high and needs working out restructuring modalities. Dr. Kalumba has observed that Zambia's debt portfolio has now become a shock to its economy, especially that it has been contracted in a short period of time. He states that his prayer, therefore, is that government will be strict with expenditure and will maintain commitment to the announced austerity measures. Dr. Kalumba's further hopes that government will not contract any further debt until it reaches some sort of agreement with the International Monetary Fund IMF on the stabilization measures. He is also of the view that the issue of single sourcing in the refinancing the first Eurobond of $750 million United States dollars does not matter, but that what matters is the establishment of the total debt deadlock.
The key issue first, Chula, is to establish what is the debt burden right now, both external debt as well as local debt. I think there is some concern, but that the total burden of debt has not been established fully, particularly when we take into account local debt. And while we worry about sourcing, single sourcing or whatever, I think the most important part for now is first know how much debt do we have and what can we do to put restraints on borrowing. It's not the source of borrowing that is the problem. It is the burden of the extent, the quantum of debt itself that needs to be, first of all, established fully and a restraint put on further borrowing. There are a number of projects that can be capitalized from our own local revenue, and government is expanding these sources of revenue. But I think worrying about whether we are single sourcing, that's what is material right now. Let's establish the quantum of debt. Let's know where we can rein in some of that debt, where we can restructure that debt. That's what needs to be done. The key issue.
The Agricultural and Commercial Society of Zambia, ACSZ, has finally dismissed media reports suggesting that the Lusaka showgrounds has been sold. ACSZ President Caroline Silwamba says it is false that the showgrounds have been sold to an investor. Mrs. Silwamba has told Q News in a statement that the Show Society has no intentions of selling the showgrounds or relocating to any other place other than the current place. She has also clarified that the showgrounds is owned by the Agriculture and Commercial Cooperative Society of Zambia and that the society is a non-profit making organization. Mrs. Silwamba further explains that the membership of the Show Society is drawn from individuals and institutions across Zambia. She states that the ACSZ is therefore advising people who are circulating rumors to get facts right before they issue statements in the media. And Mrs. Silwamba has disclosed that the Show Society has, however, continued focusing on its development agenda. She says its master plan has already been developed and that this will see the construction of modern infrastructure. Mrs. Silwamba says the ACZ has, in this case, started with the building of the new members' enclosure, which will be commissioned later this year. She further notes that the master plan will also see the construction of modern exhibition centers for agricultural and commercial exhibits. Mrs. Silwamba says the showgrounds is therefore here to stay. She has since assured the Society's cooperating partners that the ACZ annual shows will continue as usual. The Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission, CEEC, says it has mobilized a total of $6 million United States dollars for the commercialization of cassava in Zambia. The money has been secured from the African Development Bank, AFDB. CEEC Director General Likando Mukumbuta has told Q News that the commercialization of cassava will be supported in northwestern, Luapula and northern provinces of Zambia. Mr. Mukumbuta says the CEEC intends to support 12,000 smallholder farmers in the mentioned provinces to produce improved varieties of early maturing and better quality cassava. He says the Commission also targets to support 25 other local companies in the processing of cassava for production of starch, cassava flour and other finished products. Mr. Mukumbuta states that the program is aimed at diversifying the utilization of cassava in Zambia and strengthening demand for cassava products in the country and in the region at large.
Yes, cassava is going to be very important. For cassava, we have mobilized $6 million from the African Development Bank. Yeah, we are supporting the commercialization of cassava in northwestern, Luapula, and northern provinces. We're also supporting some processing projects in Lusaka and the Copper Belt. Yeah, so the idea here is that we're going to support 12,000 smallholder farmers to produce improved varieties of early maturing, better quality cassava. We're also supporting 25 companies to be processing cassava for production of starch, production of gari, cassava flour, and various things. The idea is to strengthen the demand for cassava products and to diversify the utilization of cassava in Zambia. Yes, cassava is...
A leading Chinese pharmaceutical firm, Fosun Pharma, has donated 2.4 million kwacha worth of drugs meant to enhance the fight against malaria in Zambia. And the Pre-Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, FOCAC high-level meeting on deepening China-Africa health cooperation has prioritized Zambia to be amongst the top 8 countries to benefit from the Chinese investment in local manufacturing of pharmaceuticals. The pre-focus meeting has seen Zambia and China sign a memorandum of understanding to enhance collaboration in malaria elimination. Another memorandum of understanding is on the scorecard on border government-to-government interface on infrastructure and medical equipment, human capital development, e-health, solar power for health, and pharmaceutical production. Addressing the high-level meeting, Minister of Health, Dr. Chitalu Chirufya, shared progress on Zambia's health transformational agenda and pinpointed areas for possible collaboration with China. Dr. Chirufya informed the gathering that the Zambian government, led by His Excellency Edgar Chagwa Lungu, has placed a premium on the health of Zambians, focusing on building robust health systems resilient to deliver universal health coverage using the integrated primary healthcare approach. The meeting, organized by the National Health Commission of China and supported by USAID and WHO in Beijing, started on 16th August 2018 and will end on 21st August 2018. The meeting will feed into the Heads of States Summit on the FOCAC. This is contained in a statement issued by Minister of Health Head of Media Relations, Stanislas Ngosa. The Zambia Correctional Services says this year it expects to increase its farm yield to 20%. Zambia Correctional Services Head of Public Relations Maggie Nawa told Q News that correctional facilities across the country are in the 2017-2018 farming season expected to record a yield of 87,000 by 50 kilogram bags of maize compared to 68,000 by 50 kilogram bags of maize recorded last farming season. Ms. Nawa says the increase in maize production is expected to help improve further the nutritional needs of the correctional facilities around the country. She has, however, stated that the correctional facilities are becoming more self-sustaining in terms of diets, as there are various farming projects being undertaken in facilities across the country, which include growing of vegetables and growing of fish and chicken rearing.
2017-2018 farming season, we are expecting a yield of 87,000 by 50 kg bags of maize. So that has been an increment from what we had last year. 68,000 by 50 kg bags. In terms of nutrition, there is an allocation by government that supplies food rations to inmates, but also as a correctional service, we have spoken about agriculture. We're into agriculture. So we try to supplement inmates' diet with vegetables, protein. We have, every station has a project of having a project running of growing various types of vegetables, and also chicken projects, and also 2017.
The Zambia Association for Women in Construction, Zawika, has reiterated the need for government to ensure that women benefit from the 20% subcontraction policy. Zawika President Dorothy Muliwa has told Q News that only about 2% out of the 20% sub-construction policy has been given to women in the country. Mrs. Muliwa states that women are finding it difficult to get into subcontracting as they are being sidelined, and it seems that those foreigners who have contracts in the sector are reluctant in subcontracting locals, especially the women contractors. She states that there is a lot of money being spent in construction of roads, houses, and malls in the country, but most of this money is being externalized by the foreign contractors being engaged. She has noted the need for the 20% sub-construction policy to be strengthened to ensure that women contractors benefit.
In actual fact, like us women in construction, I think I can only count maybe 2 or 3 women who have got jobs, and not jobs that I would say they're jobs that are going to bring them up and maybe take them to higher grades in the construction. No, these are just small jobs that they are being given, and we are saying to the government, look, there's a lot of money that is being spent in this construction of roads and construction of housing. But this money is not staying in Zambia. It's being externalized. So how do you expect the economy to stabilize? It can't. And what we are asking for as Zambians is just the 20%, just the 20%, and the foreigners get 80%. Is that too much to ask for? It's not. So, well, we have policies like the ZPPA Act. It has a clause which talks about giving preference to women, the disabled, and the youth, but it's not followed. That is not followed. There should be a deliberate policy to make sure that in each and every, and we mean every contract that is given out in Zambia, there are Zambians there properly documented.
Community Development Minister Emerin Kabanji says there are currently over 600,000 people on the social cash transfer program across Zambia. Ms. Kabanji told Q News that government is committed to ensuring that more vulnerable people are put on the program. She says officers in her ministry are currently on the ground across the country, identifying more people who can be put on the program. She is optimistic that the government will attain its target of having more than 700,000 people on the program by the end of the year. Eastern Province Permanent Secretary Chanda Kasolo says the issue of curing tobacco in his province will soon be a thing of the past. Mr. Kasolo says farmers will no longer require to cut wood to cure tobacco once a project awaiting to be allocated land in the province is implemented. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Kasolo states that tobacco will be cured electronically with this protective measure put in place. Mr. Kasolo says machinery of this project is already in the country, and all that is remaining is the allocation of land on which it will be set up. He states that this is why he is determined to ensure that he personally deals with the bureaucracy that is hindering the implementation of the project.
Going to allow that to happen. So today, I'm going to have a result, whichever way. There will be a result. That land will be allocated and we can start the process going. These people are ready. There's some of the equipment that's been brought. They're going to do, for instance, tobacco curing electronically. That system doesn't exist anywhere in Southern Africa. They're going to use that. We are the top producer of tobacco in Zambia, of course, as a province. And they're going to use that. We're going to help our environment. We no longer will require to cut wood in order to cure tobacco. These facilities are already there. I've seen the cartons of the machinery. It's already in the country. But their hands are tied because of this bureaucracy issue. But I'm going to cut across the bureaucracy and we'll make sure that we do succeed. It is very, very important for not just my ego, but I tell you what, it's very important for the people, the poor people of Eastern Province. I'm going to allow that.
Mshindano District Commissioner Emmanuel Chihili has cautioned people at Kipushi border post to desist from selling and subdividing land without proper documentation. Mr. Chihili says only the council and traditional leaders in the chiefdoms in their respective jurisdiction are allowed to offer land. He states that all marketeers at the border who are also building permanent structures have no legal authorization to do so. Mr. Chihili says once the district plan is confirmed, all the illegal structures built at the border will be demolished to pave way for the construction of government structures. He has also called on marketeers to maintain peace and order with traders from neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. Meanwhile, Mr. Chihili has also urged traders to be cautious and report any suspected cases of Ebola to health officials. He says so far there has been no record of Ebola, hence the need to continue with the screening of people at the border to ensure that no suspected patient is allowed entry into the country. Chawama Ward 2 Councillor Leonard Sikombe says a number of strategies have been formulated to help address high levels of underage drinking in his ward. Mr. Sikombe is concerned with the alarming rates of beer drinking among the residents. He is, however, optimistic the engaging of over 200 council police officers by the council will help his wards and other wards around the city curtail the vice of underage beer drinking and bars operating outside stipulated hours. He has stated that the uncontrolled consumption of alcohol in communities takes away productivity, a situation which should be addressed and stopped. He has since stated his commitment to working closely with the council and police to address the scourge of underage drinking and the challenge of bars operating outside stipulated periods.
As you can see, I admire when I pass through other wards in Lusaka. If you're passing through Kalingalinga, all you see is metal fabrication, block making. But if you come through to Chawama, just by the entry there's a lot of beer consumption, JCC, along all that area. We are hoping that with the new council police officers we've employed, we are going to enforce more of the closure and the early drinking, young adolescent coming to drink. So we've just been having a challenge of enforcement because of manpower. We've got less personnel, but with this employment that we've put in, we've employed about 200 police officers. That will see us having stationed police officers just in my ward. That will be a plus. With the coming on with the new civic center, with the decentralization, where we must not only depend in civic center, things must be done here in Chawama. As you can see.
To end the news, we recap on stories making headlines. President Edgar Lungu says late President Levi Patrick Manawasa is a true beacon of how a leader ought to be. And former Finance Minister Katele Kalumba has agreed with the observation that Zambia is now headed for debt distress. On that note, we come to the end of the news. From me, Diana Sumbwe, thank you for watching.